let's move on to a more spoilery conversation. I'll preface it by saying this is about a name that Cersei dropped in talking to Tycho Nestoris in the Red Keep. She said that Qyburn has been trying to reach out to the Golden Company, and that, you know, we know that all the gold got into the Red Keep so they can pay back the Iron Bank. Should the Iron Bank want to loan them more money, she would use it to try and get the Golden Company to her side. I think this is super important, but to discuss it, I have to get into book spoilers. So if you don't want to talk about book spoilers, things that have happened in the books, probably won't happen on the show, but are still spoilers, get out of here. Totally understand. This is our last topic of this week's episode, and we'll catch you next week on Dragons on the Wall. But if you want to come down the spoiler and theory rabbit hole with us, please stay. Joshua has been with me.
You've been talking to Dornbush?
He's down. He's here in LA right now. He's helping me out with TCA. Joshua, did Cersei name dropping the Golden Company cause you to perk up like it did me? Did you catch that?
Yeah, it's something that they mention just in passing of just like, oh, it's this band of mercenaries, 10,000 strong, that you might want to hire for this war. I love how there's this, they're probably like the most renowned mercenary company, and like no one's giving them any work. No one that we know on the show anyways. But yeah, so now they've brought up again, Cersei just came to some money, because there is that line that the money made it safely to King's Landing, even though the supply train was destroyed by the dragon. So what do you think that's going to mean? So
the Golden Company, for some context, in the show has been brought up, I think, 2 times before. The most notable is that Davos tried to get Stannis to hire them back in season 4, I believe. And Stannis was like, nah, I'm not going to hire sellswords, and we all know how that turned out for him. The second time is when Jorah is pushing back to Daenerys about having Daario be a part of their team, and she was like, well, you used to fight for the Golden Company before, you know, you pledged your sword to Viserys. So Viserys, I always mispronounce that.
Viserys.
Yeah. So those are the 2 notable times and 2 notable connections. So for Cersei to bring it up now is really interesting, because I don't think that they bring it up without it being important. I don't think that it's just a passing reference. I think the Golden Company will be a part of the show in some way. If I'm wrong and making a big deal out of this, well, happy to waste your time with this big theory.
This wouldn't be Dragons on the Wall if you had a really elaborate Terry Schwartz theory to go on. So please, go.
So yeah, I think that Cersei is definitely going to try to hire them. The bigger question is whether they come to her, because yes, it would be a great asset. Dany just burned a bunch of her dragons, but I think the Jorah connection is really interesting, and this is when we get into book spoilers. So the Golden Company is super important in the later Game of Thrones books, because 2 characters who are not on the show, who I think will never be on the show, are members of it. Now, the first is Jon Connington, who was hand to the king of Mad King Aerys way back when. And with him is someone named Young Griff, who we later find out and is confirmed, which automatically makes people think that it's not true and that he's a Blackfire, but supposedly Aegon Targaryen, the son of Rhaegar and Elia Targaryen, who the Mountain smashed his head against the wall and supposedly killed him as a baby during Robert's Rebellion, is also been raised with the Golden Company. And it's important because, number 1, it means that Dany isn't the last living Targaryen officially, because we still don't know that R plus L equals J if Jon ends up being a Targaryen, which we all assume is the case. But that does mean that there are at least 2 living Targaryens. And Aegon is going with, sorry, this is a very long explanation.
Go, I'm in it.
Aegon and Jon Connington, who we will from here on call Jon Con, as fans do, are going with the Golden Company to try and meet up with Dany and marry her. So why is this important? Well, because in the show, Jorah has actually taken on a lot of Jon Con's storylines, like specifically that Jon Con is covered in grayscale and hasn't told anyone, and we know that Jorah had that, and it's since been cured. So I think that for all that Young Griff, Aegon, and Jon Connington are not going to be in the show, I think that Jorah will fill that Jon Connington role. And I think that he could potentially intercept the Golden Company. We know he's trying to get back to Dany. What better way than with 10,000 amazing sellswords? Maybe that's a great way to bring Daario back into the show. If Daario, you know, I don't know. I hope he
Bay's back.
Bay's back. I don't think that he will. But I think it would be really cool to see sort of this duel over who will get this very powerful group. And hopefully it ends up being Dany, but maybe money will be enough to win them over to Cersei's side. Do you think I'm making much ado about nothing? That was very far down the rabbit hole.
No, I think you're right that the Golden Company will have a significant role to play. And it's just a matter of seeing how they're going to incorporate it and which character is going to be the ones that win them to either side of the war.
I think what's also an interesting reminder for book fans is that these two characters exist but won't be on the show. And if Jorah is Jon Connington, then who will take over Aegon's sort of role to play? And I don't think that it necessarily relates to the Golden Company about it all on the show. But I think it is a reminder that Jon could be the only other Targaryen on the show, and Daenerys has already made a point to say, "I am the last living Targaryen," and if that is not the case, that's a big deal. So I think sort of as an aside, it will be interesting to see if sort of that Aegon role gets mashed up with the Jon Snow of it all.
I think you're onto something.
Woo! Feels good, guys. We only have, what, 6 more days to wait for the next Game of Thrones, but only 3 more left this season. Very sad, very sad, very sad.
But when they're this good.
How do they top it? How do they top it? And if they really go to Eastwatch next week, I'm like, my body isn't ready. But that is our show for today. This is another reminder, if you enjoy Dragons on the Wall, please like, subscribe, share, and give us a good rating. We just enjoy having this conversation with you guys. And again, please reach out to us on Twitter about all your theories and follow-ups. I am at Terri_Schwartz. This is at Joshua Yale.
Twitter is a ladder.
Twitter is a ladder. I wish I remembered more of that quote. We have plenty more Game of Thrones excitement in video format. If you didn't watch last week's Dragons on the Wall, especially my very deep dive Catspaw theory, Catspaw Dagger theory, make sure to check that out also all week long, even though Dragons won't be back until Monday. Plenty more Game of Thrones content and theories coming up on the site, so make sure to check it out. For all things Game of Thrones, make sure to keep it here at IGN. That's our show. Thanks, everyone.